The chamber lights dimmed to a diplomatic hue, cool and ceremonial, as representatives from over 100 galactic civilizations settled into their perches. Suspended mid-air on magnetic platforms or seated within organic thrones of their own design, the delegates of the Galactic Council watched the proceedings with amusement or indifference. The gathering was not war, it was spectacle, a formality meant to reinforce the superiority of the older races. Humanity, the newcomers, had been invited not as equals, but as entertainment. At the center, High Chancellor Zarthal of the Quorax Confederacy stood tall on his elevated dais, a four-armed behemoth clothed in shimmering bio-silk, his voice projecting across the dome in 6 harmonic frequencies. "The humans of Earth have arrived," he announced with mock grandeur, bringing with them their quaint traditions and charming relics of warfare. The audience chuckled, some emitting warbled chirps or pulsed flashes of light. A symphony of mockery. Let us see what the primitives bring to the table of giants. The human delegation stood at the far end of the rotunda, 3 figures against an empire of thousands. General Everett Harper, tall and grizzled, his gray hair neatly trimmed beneath a cap that bore no insignia, stared ahead with the same expression he might have worn during a pre-dawn ambush. Flanking him, Lieutenant Sophia Reyes stood at rigid attention, her eyes moving only enough to track the smirks and side glances thrown their way. The third, an aide in a civilian suit, clutched a briefcase and looked like he desperately wished to be anywhere else. Harper spoke first, his voice neither defiant nor deferential. "We understand the terms. We accept the demonstration." Zarthal's mandibles twitched upward. So eager, he turned to the chamber. "Let the record show Earth volunteers for the field of Dominion exercise. They will be granted Sector 9-4 on the war moon Taltheran. Their army will participate in live combat simulation against coalition forces. Standard non-lethal protocols apply, though I fear their equipment may not be as forgiving." More laughter. Reyes glanced sideways at Harper, but said nothing. He gave the faintest nod. As the council proceeded to ratify the session and dismiss Earth's delegation, Harper remained still for a heartbeat longer. The laughter had not stopped. He let it echo through his chest like a low drum. He memorized the tone of it. Every soldier he'd ever lost in forgotten valleys or nameless missions had died without applause. The idea of being mocked in peacetime, without cost, seemed more offensive than death itself. In the long corridor that led to their shuttle, the silence between them lingered like smoke. "They think it's a joke," Reyes said at last. "It is," Harper replied, "and the punchline is waiting." She hesitated, then asked, "We're really doing this?" He stopped and looked at her. "They've never fought humans in terrain we didn't control. Never bled where we bled. Never feared the dark while knowing we were in it." She studied his expression. It wasn't pride she saw there. It was certainty. "Then we show them," she said. 12 hours later, the war moon loomed across the shuttle's viewport. Taltheran, once a weapons testing ground, now a ceremonial arena for the galaxy's dominant species to showcase their military toys. Sector 9-4 was assigned to Earth, rugged, mountainous, littered with old debris from ancient battles. No infrastructure, no cover, no armor units. On purpose. "They picked the worst terrain," Reyes muttered. Harper remained calm. "They thought we'd refuse." Down in the cargo bay, soldiers checked weapons in silence. No cheers, no bravado. Only the cold professionalism of Earth's most seasoned fighters. Green Berets, Delta, Recon units, Black Ops, all handpicked. 126 in total. Fewer than most species' reconnaissance teams. A mission control officer approached. "General, your transmission window opens in 30 seconds. Harper nodded once. "Send the signal." Across the galaxy, viewership spiked. Millions tuned in from every system, curious to see what Earth's so-called army looked like. Galactic commentators speculated on whether the humans had anything beyond small-scale kinetic weaponry. Some predicted an impressive but brief last stand. Others were already writing off the entire affair as an act of political vanity. A single feed from the Council's orbital satellite captured the moment Earth's dropship entered the war moon's atmosphere. Dust trails followed the ship as it skimmed low across black canyons and cratered highlands, disappearing into clouds. Carex, commander of the Varn Dominion's legion assigned to greet the humans, sneered as he watched the live telemetry. "They didn't even bring armor," he said. "They're deploying foot soldiers into open terrain." "How quaint," one of his lieutenants asked. "Do we initiate direct contact?" Carex shook his head. "We let them set up. We give them time. It will be more embarrassing that way." On the moon's surface, the human strike teams moved swiftly, carving paths into jagged rock and establishing hidden nodes. No grand command post. No vertical defenses. Just forward operating cells, spread thin, hard to detect, impossible to predict. Reyes crouched behind a half-collapsed bunker, her eyes on the horizon where flashes of alien deployment lit the night sky. "They're massing," she said through the comm. Harper responded from a ravine several kilometers away. "Let them. They think they're hunting, and we're the prey." He paused. "No. With a reason the forest goes silent." That night, no direct engagements occurred. Alien scouts advanced with scanners and sensor drones, but their readings returned nothing. No energy signatures, no movement. Some scouts began to think the humans hadn't deployed at all, until the bodies started appearing. A Korax recon team was found with their own weapons dismantled and reassembled into a shrine-like structure. A warning or a mockery? It wasn't clear. Another squad simply vanished, their locator beacons dragged to opposite ends of the canyon and left blinking. In orbit, Council observers grew impatient. "Is this the extent of Earth strategy?" one delegate asked. "Confuse and hide." Zarthal smiled. "Let them play their tricks. Soon, the Council's hammer will fall." Back on Taltheran, Reyes watched the alien patrols move like clockwork, regimented, clean, confident. Their formations revealed their pride. Their patterns revealed their weakness. She turned to her fire team. "Now," suppressors whispered. 3 aliens dropped. The others spun, shouting, firing wildly. But there was nothing there. Only echoes. Only shadows. Harper stood atop a rise, watching dust plumes rise in the distance. The opening act was over. The hunt was beginning. He lowered his binoculars, eyes like stone. "They're still laughing," he said softly. "Let's teach them to stop." Carex stood before the hollow map, arms behind his back, tendrils twitching with controlled agitation. Dozens of red sigils pulsed across the display, his elite forward units, stationed precisely according to standard doctrine. Nothing had changed in the last hour, and that's what troubled him. The human presence should have been eradicated in the initial sweep. Yet no corpses had been recovered. No signals had been intercepted. No weapons confiscated. Only the echoing silence of an enemy refusing to die. "Comgrid failure in Sector Delta," the aide said quietly, his voice trembling. "We're trying to re-establish, Commander." Carex did not move. "What happened to the sweep team?" "Telemetry ends mid-transmission. No signs of conflict. They vanished." Carex turned, mandibles flared. "Things do not vanish. Find them." On the surface, Reyes crawled on her belly beneath the remains of a rusted-out hull. Her eyes locked on the movement of alien boots 30 meters ahead. The Korax soldiers moved in formation, precise, synchronized, predictable. That was their strength. That was their weakness. She tapped her wrist twice. Behind her, the squad of 5 adjusted positions. She watched one soldier slip silently between broken terrain, another scale a skeletal pillar without a sound. They were ghosts now, ghosts with steel teeth. The enemy stopped, scanners sweeping, plasma rifles raised. They suspected something, but they didn't see it. A pulse of light flickered overhead. One of the alien soldiers raised his arm to signal. He never finished the motion. A sharp crack split the air, one shot clean, perfect. His body dropped without a sound. Then another, and another. The formation collapsed into chaos, soldiers shouting in strange dialects, returning fire into empty shadows. Explosions lit the night, but they hit nothing. "Don't shoot unless you see their breath," Reyes whispered. "Let them bleed paranoia." Carex watched his monitor stutter. "Where's the feed? Where are the visuals?" Interference, came the reply. Localized jamming, primitive frequency disruption. Impossible. They shouldn't have a range. They've overridden our own field repeaters. Karex hissed softly, then turned to another display. Thermal signatures. Dozens of heat sources surrounded his western flank. He leaned closer. They flickered, pulsed, then vanished. Decoys. A sharp burst came through his earpiece. One of his sector commanders was shouting. They're inside the trench system. They weren't there minutes ago. How many? I don't know. They're everywhere. Karex muted the channel. He watched the red symbols on the tactical map blink out, one after another, in rapid succession. Reyes and her squad moved like liquid through the trench lines, clearing one chamber at a time. Suppressed rifles coughed in the dark. Aliens fell in silence, their bodies dragged into corners. Reyes stepped over a twitching limb and pressed forward. There was no hesitation, no wasted movement, only the methodical progression of elimination. In the field command bunker, General Harper stood in front of a flickering terminal. The Council's encrypted systems were open before him, data streaming in real time. Human code crawled across the interface, foreign, irreverent, incompatible. But worked. Status, he asked, not looking away. Eastern corridor cleared. We've cut through their supply nodes and spiked their internal comms. A soldier answered. They're fighting each other in two sectors due to false flag transmissions. Losses none. Perfect, Harper murmured. Now show them pain. In orbit, Council observers watched as the once organized alien advance faltered. The spectacle they had been promised, Earth's humiliating collapse, had not materialized. Instead, they saw confusion, static, shadows, and silence. Zarthal narrowed his eyes as Karex appeared on the broadcast, visibly shaken. There's been an unexpected resistance, the commander admitted. Human tactics are unorthodox. Unorthodox? Zarthal sneered. You're being outmaneuvered by primitives. Karex didn't reply. Far below, two Korax troopers rushed through a debris corridor, weapons raised. One turned a corner, and his head snapped backward, a dart embedded beneath his chin. The second turned to run, only to trip a wire that brought a serrated blade across his throat. No energy, no plasma, no fanfare. Just death. Reyes pulled the bodies into shadow and moved on. Elsewhere, Sergeant Cole's fire team crawled through a maintenance tunnel beneath the enemy's mobile HQ. They carried no flashlights, just instincts, breath, and resolve. At a junction, Cole paused, placing a small sensor node along the wall. Here, he whispered. Above them, Karex paced before his officers. They will not attack directly, he snapped. They are scavengers. They ambush and vanish. But they do not know siege. Fortify positions. We will smoke them out. He gestured to the walls, unaware of the blinking sensor quietly embedded behind him. In orbit, Council feeds lit up. Human troops, barely visible, slipped behind enemy lines. They planted crude devices. They watched. They waited. Then they struck. A chain of silent explosions rippled through the alien fortifications. Not high-yield detonations, but calculated ones. The type meant to disorient, divide, and force soldiers into tight corridors. And in those corridors, the humans waited. Zarthal leaned forward. What are they doing? They're forcing the enemy into choke points, one analyst replied slowly, and then eliminating them piecemeal. Zarthal watched as another feed blacked out, replaced by a line of text. War isn't won by weapons. It's won by will. Inside the trench ruins, Reyes paused. Her team had cleared another nest. Her hands were steady. Blood smeared her sleeve, not hers. She turned to see a fallen alien still twitching, a greenish fluid bubbling from its mouth. She stared at it, just long enough to feel it trying to speak. I'm sorry, she whispered, and ended it. Karex's command post was under siege. Static crawled across every monitor. The hum of external sensors had gone quiet. The air felt heavy. He could no longer tell where his own troops were. The lines had blurred. Discipline had evaporated. He turned to one of his generals. Why are we losing? The other alien blinked slowly. Because we taught them how we think. Karex stiffened. They think like predators, not soldiers. We train for patterns. They fight like chaos wearing flesh. On the outskirts of the battlefield, Harper watched through a drone feed. Explosions blinked softly in the distance. Alien units fell back from ghost attacks, firing blindly into the dark. They've broken rank, Reyes reported over comms. Good, Harper said. Push deeper. No frontal engagements. Keep them guessing. Yes, sir. A long silence followed. Then Reyes spoke again. Sir, we found something. Harper's brow furrowed. What? A council observer drone. Not transmitting anymore. Looks like someone killed it. With a rock. Harper almost laughed but didn't. They wanted to watch, he said. Let them. Far above, Zarthul sat silent. His claws tapped the table, expression unreadable. Around him, counselors muttered, some in disbelief, others in growing fear. They are a contagion, one delegate said. They infect order with madness. They are shadows, said another. Zarthul finally spoke. No, they are human. Below, Kurex heard the final sound before his command post went dark. A low whisper. Boo. Then the lights died. And so did he. The silence over the council war feeds was deafening. Zarthul leaned forward in his throne, his segmented fingers steepled beneath his chin, watching as yet another quadrant of Karex's once mighty formation disappeared from the map in real time. Sector 12 went dark without even a scream. No energy spikes, no plasma residue, no telltale signs of battle. Just vanishing red. How many now? He asked, though he already knew. 71% of Korak's ground forces are unresponsive, said the analyst in a trembling voice. Satellite visual confirms widespread collapse. They were extermination units, Zarthul whispered, designed for plague worlds. And they're gone, the analyst said. Humans aren't just resisting. They're dismantling. On the war moon's surface, General Harper stood amid the crumbled remains of an alien comm tower, his boots crunching glass-like shards of alien alloy. Around him, Reyes and the remaining squads regrouped. Their gear was scorched, uniforms tattered, but their eyes gleamed with cold clarity. Every unit was accounted for. Losses, 2 injured, 0 dead. They're consolidating at the southern ridge, Reyes said, scanning a portable display. The last of Karex's command group. Looks like they're digging in. Harper nodded. Let them. She hesitated. We're outnumbered 10-1 if they regroup. Then we don't let them regroup. Far across the battlefield, Commander Karex crouched inside a fortified encampment, surrounded by his last remaining officers. Smoke clung to the air like a curse. The defensive turrets were operational, mechs on standby, aerial drones humming above like wasps, eyes scanning for anything human. He no longer barked orders. He whispered them. No movement without thermal confirmation. No patrols beyond perimeter. No signals sent without triple encryption. Even still, he could feel it. They were watching. The humans hadn't come to face them in battle. They had come to consume them piece by piece. Karex had stopped trying to understand how. Every theory collapsed under the weight of fear. Their technology was inferior, yet worked. Their tactics were alien, yet precise. Their very presence bent the logic of war. He paced near the outer wall, armored and shaking. The night was still. No gunfire. No screams. Only the sound of his own breathing. A chirp interrupted the silence. One of the guards checked his device. Commander, a figure. Moving. Karex froze. Where? Directly ahead. 70 meters. No thermal. No sound. Just movement. The drone feeds confirmed it, barely. A flicker of a silhouette. Human shape. Karex drew his blade. Open fire. The command post lit up. Plasma turrets fired into the shadows. Drones loosed energy bolts. Soldiers fired wildly. Smoke and sparks filled the air. When it cleared, there was nothing, except a single metal object on the ground. A helmet. Human standard issue. It had a message etched into it. We see you. Karex staggered back. Inside. Now. Lock down everything. Inside the control center, Zarthul's voice crackled through the emergency channel. Report. Karex looked into the console, his eyes haunted. We're not fighting soldiers. Then what are you fighting? Karex's voice dropped. Predators. Outside the perimeter, Harper watched the chaos unfold from a distant ridge. He handed Reyes a long-range rifle, already dialed in. "Officer second from the left," he said calmly. "He's coordinating drone coverage." Reyes lay prone, breath steady, finger on the trigger. The reticle danced on a nervous thorax officer's chest. A single squeeze, and the figure dropped like a rag doll. The camp panicked again, drones spinning, searchlights scanning in every direction. "They're blind again," Reyes whispered. "Good," Harper said. "Now we strike." Across the ridge, 4 human fire teams advanced from different angles. No comms, no light, just nods, hand signals, and instinct. They hit like a virus. From the north, explosives took out a fuel depot. From the west, 2 infiltrators crawled beneath active shields and disabled power cores. From the east, a sniper team took down officers one by one. From above, small drones hacked their surveillance nets and flooded them with false signals. The base turned on itself. Gunfire echoed from inside. Units firing at shadows. Commanders shouting contradictory orders. Defensive AI misfiring. It was a maelstrom of panic. Harper walked calmly through the southern breach 15 minutes later. A thorax trooper charged him, plasma blade drawn. Reyes intercepted him mid-sprint, breaking his leg with a sweep and knocking him unconscious with the butt of a rifle. No shots fired. Inside the inner sanctum, thorax had locked himself in the vault bunker. The lights flickered. A single security feed remained active, displaying the command courtyard. He watched his men surrender, watched them drop weapons, watched them look up as human soldiers emerge from smoke like nightmares given form. He couldn't hear what Harper said to them, but he saw what followed. A single shot, into the sky, then silence. Moments later, the vault door hissed. Carrick spun around, weapon raised. But it wasn't Harper. It was Reyes. Alone. She stepped in calmly. Her armor was scratched, dried blood on her gloves. Her face was unreadable. Carrick backed into the wall. What are you?" She tilted her head. "We're what happens," she said, "when you mistake restraint for weakness." He swung. She dodged. Her hand struck his wrist, disarming him. She drove her knee into his chest, sending him crumpling. She stood over him, silent. Carrick wheezed. "Why didn't you just attack from the beginning?" She looked down at him like one might look at a firefly in a jar. "Because then you wouldn't be afraid," she said softly. "And we wanted you afraid." Outside, the battlefield lay silent. Alien troops disarmed and seated, surrounded by humans who said nothing. No cheering, no arrogance, just watchfulness. Harper stood in the center of the field, looking up at the sky where the council drones still watched. He raised a hand, 2 fingers, a small signal, a message. "Remember this." In orbit, Zarthol leaned back in his throne. His face was pale. No words, just understanding. The humans had not come to be evaluated. They had come to deliver a lesson, and the galaxy would never laugh again. The warm moon was quiet. Ash drifted on cold wind between shattered towers and crumpled outposts. The air still carried the scent of scorched circuitry and alien blood, but no screams remained. No orders. No resistance. Only aftermath. Reyes stood at the edge of the broken thorax command post, watching human soldiers move silently through the debris. Some gathered weapons. Others escorted surrendered troops. No one smiled. No one spoke unless necessary. The battle had ended, but the war, for perception, for respect, was just beginning. She turned as Harper approached, his boots caked in dust, his expression as unreadable as ever. "It's done," she said. "Not quite," Harper replied. "Not until they understand what they saw." Above them, the Council's high-orbit drones hovered silently, their lenses recording everything. Their data feeds were already beaming back to trillions of viewers across hundreds of systems. No filters, no editing, no excuses. The truth was raw. 126 human soldiers had faced an elite alien force of over 70,000. They had left the battlefield with only 5 wounded. No fatalities. The thorax legions were gone. Harper turned toward the field where the last of the prisoners were lined up, their weapons in a heap beside them. Human troops watched without malice, only vigilance. Some of the aliens trembled. Others looked hollow. The illusion of superiority had shattered too completely to be repaired. "They're afraid of us now," Reyes murmured. "They should be," Harper said, "but not for the reasons they think." She nodded slowly. "We didn't win because we're stronger." "No," he agreed. "We won because we're human. Because when everything breaks down, we don't. We adapt. We learn." And when cornered, he let the thought hang in the air. "We become something else," Reyes finished. A soft ping echoed from Harper's communicator. A message from orbit. "Council priority channel." He tapped it once. Zarthol's image shimmered into view. A live transmission, his towering form visibly diminished in the hologram. The usual grandeur of his voice was gone, replaced with something measured. "Careful, General Harper," he began. "The Council recognizes the outcome of today's trial." Harper didn't respond. Zarthol continued, eyes narrowing. "Let be recorded. Earth's forces have exceeded all expectations. Your performance has been observed and logged in full transparency. We will initiate a formal reclassification of humanity's military standing." Harper raised a brow. "From primitive to what, exactly?" Zarthol hesitated. "Formidable." There was a long silence. Reyes almost smiled. "Almost. We didn't do this to earn medals," Harper said flatly. "We did it to show you what happens when you underestimate the wrong species." Zarthol's gaze sharpened. "You realize what you've set in motion? The balance of perception across the Council has shifted. Some will fear you. Some will test you. Some will want alliances. Others, retribution." Harper gave a small shrug. "That's your galaxy's problem." Zarthol leaned forward. "You came to this council wearing masks of civility. But today we saw your true face." "No," Harper replied. "You saw one of them." The hologram blinked out. Reyes glanced around the remains of the battlefield. "So what now?" Harper took a breath, looking up at the distant black sky where the drones still watched. "Now," he said, "we go home." In the days that followed, the footage spread like wildfire. On planets that had never heard of Earth, citizens gathered in silence to watch the grainy, unfiltered visuals. Not of human weapons. Those looked simple by galactic standards, but of human tenacity. Of traps set with wire and bait. Of soldiers crawling through fire and ash. Of quiet kills in the dark. Of discipline. Of silence. Of intent. The galaxy had always measured war in power and numbers. Earth had introduced a terrifying third axis, unpredictability. Diplomatic channels lit up across the stars. Some races demanded Earth's inclusion in higher military councils. Others protested the deception of humanity's true nature. Some labeled them predators. Others whispered they might be the most dangerous peacekeepers ever born. Earth responded to none of it. In a small military base on the outskirts of Colorado, Harper stepped into a debrief room lit by pale morning light. Reyes sat at the edge of the long table, boots kicked up, scrolling through reports. She looked up as he entered. "Any official statement from command?" "Nothing beyond confirmation. We're under full observation now. Every agency, every government, every alien ambassador wants to know what we'll do next." She set the pad down. "What are we going to do?" "Exactly what we've always done," Harper said, sitting across from her. "Train. Prepare. Wait." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "For what?" Harper looked her in the eye. "For the next time they laugh." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the operation settling into their bones. Finally, she asked, "Do you think they'll try again?" "They always do," he said. "But next time, the surprise will be gone." Reyes leaned back. "So we give them something new to fear." Harper didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. Beyond Earth's orbit, Council fleets reevaluated every tactical doctrine that had once dismissed human strategy as obsolete. War colleges rewrote their threat models. Generals who had once smirked at Terran tactics now studied them in sleepless paranoia. No one laughed. On a remote outpost in the Zethary fringe, a cadet raised a hand during a tactical class. "What do we do if we ever go to war with humans?" The instructor paused, visibly uncomfortable. "Pray they don't see you coming," he said. "And if they do, run." Back on Earth, Reyes stepped outside the base, the early light catching on the horizon. A transport shuttle prepped in the distance, steam hissing as systems warmed. She inhaled deeply, the air sharp and clean. The warm moon was behind them, but the lesson was permanent. She watched the sun rise and muttered under her breath, "They won't forget." Behind her, Harper walked out, coat billowing in the wind. He joined her without a word, just stood beside her as the dawn broke across the sky. "No medals," she said. "No speeches," he added. "No parades." Harper nodded. Just another warning carved into the galaxy's memory. Reyes glanced at him, then smiled faintly. "Good." The shuttle's engines rumbled louder. As they boarded, the sky above shimmered with faint signals. Council eyes still watching, still calculating, still wondering if what they had witnessed was the beginning of something far more dangerous than war. Humanity hadn't just shown they could survive. They'd shown they could dominate. Quietly, relentlessly, without ever asking for permission.